Welcome to the EU Jurist Podcast, whose central mission is to provide you with the highest quality legal insights by having discussions with top EU jurists. I'm Julian Baziru, and I will be the host of today's episode. Today, I'm having the pleasure of hosting Sadri Sali, one of the very few people who specialized in the crypto law of the European Union, namely the markets in crypto assets regulation. He is a graduate of both Maastricht University, where he did his bachelor, and of Utrecht University, where he wrote his master's thesis on MiCA back when it was only a proposal. Now, it can be said that he has helped numerous crypto clients navigate the legal landscape by advising them through his firm that he founded and currently leads as the managing partner. Settle in for a discussion of relevant and timely topics, and let us know which insight was your favorite in the comment section. How are you, Sadri?
I'm very fine, sir. How are you?
That's wonderful. I'm glad to see that. I'm glad to have you today with me. Now, let's jump right into it. How was life for crypto actors before the introduction of the markets in crypto assets regulation?
It was sort of a dreamland, first of all, so we can all agree on that. Many people made lots of money. Everybody got interested into this crypto asset market. And then we are today at what? Something like above resistance, about $70,000 per Bitcoin. And now a new market cycle is about to start with new liquidity from retail investors. So in the very beginning, it was something foggy. Nobody knew what's Bitcoin, what crypto assets are. Is there any law about that? How are we going to tax this? And so on. So, yeah. Are we going to let people compete with our own financial system, the integrity and stability of it? That we fought so long for it as governments and so on. And yet, we made it. It was a bottom-up approach in that regard.
Really?
Yes. It started from the small people back in their garages. And they got in a dream world where they could be actually sort of grandfathers of it. And we are there now. We bought into it. We bought into this dream of decentralization where money is sovereign and each of us can actually control and manage it. We can become our own bank, as they say it, right? With Bitcoin.
But without most of the regulations that banks are subject to, right?
To some extent. I have some thoughts about that, but I think we should focus on crypto assets.
All right. What are the main innovations that MiCA brings to the table in terms of crypto assets? What does MiCA do mostly for the crypto actors, for the crypto business, and for the crypto investor and customer?
Well, MiCA is actually a legal framework for everybody to operate under a lawful environment, protected for end clients, for users. Because it's pretty difficult for a person like you, like me, like the viewers here, to interact actually with blockchain. It's not the easiest technology. So you need some sort of intermediary to actually buy and sell Bitcoin, because maybe you can get Bitcoin from a faucet in the good old days, but what can you do with a Bitcoin if you don't have liquidity, right? I mean, I'm going to sell it maybe to you, right? I'm going to sell you one Bitcoin to you, and I ask you the market price. But how are you going to pay me 70K, for instance, today, right?
Well, I mean, me personally, I might not be able to help you with that, but somebody else, might be...
Yeah, peer-to-peer transaction.
Yeah.
Like that's
Might be very excited with that.
Exactly, and that's basically the white paper of Bitcoin. Peer-to-peer transactions, a payment system, a new payment system worldwide, without the need of an intermediary. However, I don't think Bitcoin is a payment instrument anymore. It's more of an asset, a new digital asset class. And that's BlackRock's view, not mine necessarily. And they vouched for it. We have approved financial instruments in the US and also in the EU. Very soon we'll have even more regulated instruments out there. Besides ETPs, we'll have like enforced ones by MiCA, for instance, and the upcoming trend of new regulations and amendments to the ones like UCITS here in Europe, the directives. We have questions from ESMA whether we should regulate digital assets under the UCITS framework, and it seems like a positive answer thus far. After a couple of months, 2 or 3 months, I think it started around June or July this summer, that thread of questions from ESMA. It's just an opinion for them, but I think they will actually upgrade that framework to include ETFs, Bitcoin and crypto assets into ETFs in Europe, like life insurance policies that everybody holds at the moment.
All right, that sounds wonderful, but what about in terms of substantive law? What are the main principles that MiCA tries to embed in transactions with crypto? Does MiCA also view crypto as a crypto asset? Does it view it as something else? How exactly does it classify crypto, and what was the legislative intent behind it?
Yes, that's very good. So we need basically a legal framework for everybody to operate legally. So we also needed a taxonomy to categorize and to distinguish between the different types of cryptos. So we all used to know about cryptocurrencies, and after the ICO boom in 2017, a new subcategory of cryptocurrencies emerged, and those are basically what we know as tokens. So they are built on top of a blockchain. They are sort of layer 2s at the moment, considered, for somebody very technical. But for us, they are crypto assets, digital representations of some sort of claim, and everybody wanted to make them utility tokens. Utility tokens basically to buy or to access a good or a service in advance. So basically it's a new type of fundraising for many. That's not regulated. So that's the beauty of it. You can raise millions without any sort of regulations. And you promise that you're going to get the money to build the technology, to build the service, the good, whatever, and then with utility tokens from the pre-sale, from the ICO initial coin offering, you can basically pay for a discount, at a discount, for that type of service to access it. And MiCA basically lets everybody do this in a legal manner where everybody is protected, to some extent at least. There's no deposit guarantee, there's no pure investment scheme protection for this, like with like the schemes that we have, for instance, for deposit guarantees or for banks or for everything that you have in your banking account, right? Up to 100K per user. But we have more transparency, especially regarding governance, and that also falls under the sustainable agenda of the EU. We have the EU taxonomy and all of these things. So this is MiCA is sort of part of the digital finance package 2, which is the next era of financial regulations in the EU. We have Payment Services Directive 2, we have the travel rule of the EU, we have MiCA, we have DORA, we have a couple of others. So I think there are 20 regulations and directives in that package that are going to be completely unfolded by 2027, and many updates of the older ones.
All right, that does sound quite interesting, but could you please go a little bit into more detail
Into MiCA,
into how investors and customers are protected if you don't have any guarantee, anything, you just have governance transparency? What do you mean
let me answer
precisely
first.
by that?
That's correct. Let me answer first about MiCA. It's a legal framework, and it helps intermediaries that are called crypto asset service providers to actually get regulated, to embed some trust in the markets, and to also distinguish between the different types of crypto assets. So MiCA distinguishes between utility tokens, which are now called under Article 4 other crypto assets, asset reference tokens that are basically everything that's backed by some sort of commodity like gold, oil, everything that makes sense in the real life. And e-money tokens, which are the stable coins like Tether and the USDC and the EURC from Circle or EURS from Statista, and we have also in Amsterdam a couple of solutions and so on. MiCA also appeared as a reaction to nowadays Meta as a group. Back then, Facebook used to plan the release and the launch of a coin called Libra, which was basically an ART, asset reference token, because it was backed in contrast with fiat currencies nowadays, like backed by nothing but the trust in our own government and the armies out there that protect every government. This Libra was backed by a basket of assets formed from short-term instruments like bonds, for instance, highly liquid and so on, but also gold and some other precious metals, some other fiat currencies like USD and so on. And the Commission didn't really like that because Meta has a lot of influence. They have the means for distribution through their worldwide platform, right? We live in a platform economy. And they said, okay, it's time to regulate crypto. And that's
because of Facebook.
Sort
and
of, yes.
Meta, implicitly. Yeah.
Yes, and also Tether, which has founders in the Netherlands, actually, here. Yes, one of the co-founders. And they gathered billions. And Tether is not necessarily used for payments. It's used for trading on-chain because of the fast approach to enter and to exit the market with profits, real profits, that you can then convert because they are accepted by other third parties that are regulated. And for instance, you can withdraw from Revolut or from other e-money institutions that are regulated and so on.
And you can do this with an asset that has no legal backing. It's just a promise that somebody gives you.
Even today.
And
Even today.
well, is Tether not part? Is Tether not within the scope of the micro regulation?
It is.
Well, how come it's not regulated today?
Because it's not fully enforced yet. It would contravene the spirit of the law because that happened on 30 June, if I'm not mistaken, 2022. Yes. And it enters into full force only on 30 December 2024. But next day, the 31st of December, that's doomsday. And we see reactions from big players like the market participants that we talk here about, CASPs, crypto exchanges, for instance, Binance, right? Kraken, all of these big players, Coinbase, they just remove, they delist Tether pairs, they swap them to USDC because they are in the first phase of the MiCA approval. Not fully regulated, not fully compliant with MiCA, but the best towards that end at the moment.
Quite interesting. How do you think this will affect the markets? What do you think will be the impact on the price of Bitcoin, for example?
Well, that's a very good question. And I'm saying that because you asked me in the very beginning a couple of minutes ago.
The landscape before MiCA was introduced.
Yeah. About liquidity. And I gave you the example. If we would conduct a peer-to-peer transaction, one Bitcoin, and there would be no intermediary there where we could withdraw the funds from in something tangible like USD, Euro for our own financial goals, we'd be an issue there, right? So Tether allows that. USDC also allows that, and every other stablecoin. You can get that money in your bank account in the end. But without this, that facilitate trade, these stablecoins, we'll have a market liquidity crash potentially. And I think we'll see that because it's a heavy hit to be basically prohibited as such a huge market participant of above 100 billion from the EU single market, which is 500 million people market. And we have purchasing power here.
Do you think that the markets already price this in? Do you think that they're aware of this dimension, especially institutional investors?
Yes, but they mostly focus on geopolitics at the moment. So we talk about elections. We wait also for a competition in terms of approvals. The Netherlands is the first one that started the approval under MiCA process. So that started on the 22nd of April this year, and we have no authorization yet. It's going to come. There are about 30 applications sent to the regulator.
Only 30?
Only 30 at the moment, yes.
Out of how many crypto undertakings?
Probably more registered with the DNB, and that's where it gets tricky a little bit. So I'm going to talk about the grandfathering clause soon and why they don't need that. The moment yet in the Netherlands, but not EU-wide necessarily. And we also wait for other national implementing laws of MiCA, because, okay, it's a regulation, it's directly applicable in all EU member states and so on, but this is an EU act that needs to be transposed and implemented into national law, like the body. And it needs to be published in the official monitor or in journal of each member state before it comes into effect.
Do you mean that that member states need to enact additional legislation in order for the full
Not additional.
for the full effectiveness?
Just copy paste MiCA into their national.
All right.
Yep.
Yep.
Here and there, they have ways to basically supplement the consumer protection, the investor protection. But I don't see a point in that, because MiCA is a regulation that aims for harmonization, right? And in certain provisions, it's maximum harmonization.
Well, it's a regulation. It should be full harmonization, no possibility to derogate.
True, but then we enter the realm of subsidiarity. And some member states don't like that, because who are you to basically regulate my financial markets? You're the commission. I understand that. But then we remember about how ESMA came into existence back then, after the financial crisis of 2008. And the UK didn't like that. There was no Brexit on the agenda. The UK was full member state of the EU, and they were like, they have FCA, right? The Financial Conduct Authority, their own financial regulator. And like every other member state, we have AFM here, we have AMF in France, we have ASF in Romania, we have BaFin in Germany, we have FSA in Austria, we have MFSA in Malta, and so on. Consob in Italy, CMVM, CNVM, FSMA in Belgium, NFSA in Norway, another FSA in Denmark, and so on. Every country has a financial regulator. Why do we need a supra body like ESMA, European Securities Markets Authority, to dictate everybody what they need to do with their own capital markets? And basically because of the financial crisis of 2008, a very funny moment, but very sad for most of them, the Commission said, okay, this is another body of us. It's still the Commission, but they have better experience and know-how on how to handle such crisis moments. And the UK sued the Commission. And this is a hallmark case law from the CJEU. And the UK lost.
What was the
ESMA
primary reaction? What did the UK say to the Commission during the litigation?
Well, basically, going back to the very basics of the subsidiarity principle, the EU knows better here how to handle such situations that impact the whole EU single market. Because they can cooperate, share information, best practices in order to mitigate risks and the potential impact in such cases. And I think they've done a good job thus far.
That's nice. That's nice. But do you think that national financial regulators will try to create their own derogations in spite of the regulations just because they want something else?
Yes, and we have prime examples. For instance, Denmark usually
Well, I mean,
opts
Denmark
out.
is usually the exception to everything. So
to everything, right? At least they are part of the EU. Yeah.
I mean, that might be an exception. So
That might be an exception, that's correct.
to the general rule of Denmark being the exception to every single regulation.
Exactly.
Tolerating.
We can opt out? Sure, we'll opt out. And then we implement national law that basically says the same thing. But they have a backdoor of saying, we can do something else here, actually.
Right. Well, that sounds like a bit of a problem. Do you think that this is a threat that the Commission perhaps should work more upon, mainly
Administrative cooperation, basically.
enforcing their
setting
authority
everybody on
over
an
the
equal
other
footing.
regulators and making sure that they do not derogate and that they do not stand contrary to MiCA?
That would be a full infringement of the subsidiarity principle, in my opinion. I mean, you cannot really force and say, hey, we know better. We are the big government of the whole union. Well, we are a union, unity in diversity. I think nations, countries, states can still handle their own internal affairs by themselves very well. And they have guidance and they have help from other member states and the Commission per se and all the other specialized bodies and agencies of the union. But financial markets can operate in a very harmonious manner when you're both linked to national laws and EU laws. Because we anyway deal with international laws too. For instance, when we talk about anti-money laundering, that's not necessarily coming from us. It's coming from outside.
Can we talk a bit more about the stuff that MiCA recently does for the average consumer or for the average investor, and especially I think that some titles went into force in June of this year, right, of 2024 for
That's
viewers.
correct.
And I think that way more titles of the regulation are going to come into force in December, as you said. Have there been any protections that have been applied, any substantial changes?
Yes.
And do you think that what MiCA will introduce will be adequate for its purposes? And can you please elaborate a bit more on the purposes of MiCA and what the legislators actually want to achieve with it?
Yes.
More precisely.
So ARTs and stable coins are now regulated as of 30 June 2024. And that's why we saw those reactions from Binance, from Coinbase especially. They delisted and changed every pair, trading pair that was linked to USDT to USDC, including Binance or other exchanges that are not directly registered or authorized by any competent authority under any national framework, because there are a couple of countries that already have it, like DASP in France. They also have it in Germany. They used to have VFA in Malta since 2018, one of the first countries. So I actually worked a lot with the Maltese framework. So this is the main concern of CASPs, crypto as a service providers, crypto exchanges especially. They don't want to deal with an unauthorized stablecoin under MiCA, and that provision is already applicable. Well, they got a bit of luck because regulators got into the summer break and nobody had much time for that. And
is that a thing? Like,
yeah, of course. It's like the parliamentary break.
And is it for a whole month or
Multiple months. Some of them still have like basically pairs with Tether.
And the market just does whatever it wants in this period because the regulators are
Free market, but not that free. So basically they are uptaking de facto risk here by letting people, but they exploit the gray area there, and no national guideline, no procedure to get authorized, right? So we only have for some procedures for CASPs now and ARTs, but not for stable coins, e-money tokens. Some say that it's basically because the ME2 directive is already in place, so they could have done that if they wanted to play by the book to the full extent of it. But it's basically because they don't want to scare investors, so they want to stay profitable and not let a regulator, because the regulator is not producing law. They are basically the watchdogs of the markets. They are policing the markets.
The people who apply the law.
Yes, they are the enforcers. They are the police of the capital markets. So they don't want crypto asset service providers don't actually want to lose revenue just because there's no full clarity there. And one of the fundamental principles in law is always legal certainty. There's little to none. So they can play with that. And I don't think any rational, especially a particularist judge, would say otherwise. Like, this is not clear. That couldn't have been done. I mean, okay, I want to be authorized and licensed, but I have no application box section, no department. Like these supervision departments within regulators, bodies, are still in the making. They still hire people. They need extra hands. And some of them are just hired. They don't actually do enough, unfortunately.
Do you think that they understand the landscape of crypto well enough? Because it's very fast evolving, as you know.
Can you expand on that, please?
Do you think that the new hires even understand the legal landscape and the factual landscape of cryptocurrency?
Yes, they do understand it in most countries. And it's just a matter of whether they care or not. From the very beginning, including tax authorities, everybody understands what a crypto asset is, right? There are some very creative protocols out there, but again, lack of legal certainty protects individuals from the application of the law in the interest of the government. So it's basically a free market, there's no law. They basically say there's no law when there's no lex specialis. So then other provisions of the law, of the body of the law of that country will apply. Mm-hmm. So you can use something like Lessig says, the law of the horse. Sometimes you don't really need to create new law for an emerging technology, an emerging business model, an emerging situation or a crisis and so on. You just take something from the past that resembles and you apply that to the new conditions, if it's possible, or just amend it a little bit. That's what the UCITS is trying to do here, like the ESMA with the UCITS. And that framework undertakes in a collective, it's a long name, undertakings in collective transferable securities. Mm-hmm. That's the full name directive. Suffered, I think, 12 amendments since its first creation. Maybe 10, maybe 12, but something like around a dozen of amendments to include more and more financial products that were open for retail. So I think that's a progressive view, and you don't always need to do that. But people, coming back to your question, like regulators and their staff is pretty much adequately prepared to look into crypto asset markets, what they do, why do they exist, what the standards of protection for their clients should be. And we see a lot of misbehaving, I'd say, at least. That would be a good word to put everything. So we have the recent news of Gatbit, that's a market maker. That's basically a very large liquidity provider. And we need these people. We need these persons, undertakings, companies, whatever, groups, syndicates, because we need liquidity. And market makers actually help us with establishing a fairly and orderly market. And that's basically everybody's purpose here. We want to trade on a fair market where there's no trickery and where the regulator can actually see what's happening in order to punish the bad actors and promote the good ones. And everybody will benefit from a very nice market with good faith embedded in its DNA. And competition will blossom out of that. And everybody just wins, especially consumers.
What's the Bybit? Bybit story?
Gatbit.
Gatbit. Yeah. What's the story of Gatbit? More in depth. What did they do? All right. You say story, but I'm not familiar with it, and I think it's good because some other people might not also be familiar with that. So can you go into a bit more detail? What did? All right. Gatbit is a market maker, but what did they do that's relevant? Interesting.
Yes.
Make sure it's interesting.
It's actually really interesting because nobody understood, and that's why actually we have MiCA now in place. And I'm very glad from the very beginning because everybody was just conducting market abuse and insider dealing and so on. Now MiCA prohibits that type of behavior. So you cannot just create a pump and dump scheme and run away because there's no lex specialis and nobody can basically retrieve information, evidence to pursue any lawsuit there against you. Now regulators are equipped and they have a mandate. They can't do that. So Gatbit is basically a market maker. Probably one of the top 5. I'd say maybe the silver spot is taken by them. They're pretty big, second, third, fourth, whatever. They have lots of liquidity, many agreements with the top players in this field, and they have an article from a couple of years ago, I think, where one of the founders, if not the main face of it, said that for $15,000, I'm just going to get your token listed on the big exchanges. Because he was basically allegedly faking up the volumes. He could basically conduct wash trades there. That's a form of market abuse that's prohibited under traditional law firms. So we have basically in Euronext, that was one of my clients in the past. That's the biggest stock exchange of Europe, 4th in the world. That's a trading venue under MiFID too. That's the most serious, basically, financial regulation out there, and that also comes from a reaction to the 2008 financial crisis. It's a lot of reporting, standards, licenses, and so on. Banks are also licensed under that as credit institutions. So, but Euronext also needs to abide by the market abuses regulation, MAR, it's called. And that part, MAR principles, are embedded in MiCA too. So MiCA is a part of a couple of traditional financial regulations, but for crypto assets. So it also forces market participants to, like crypto exchanges, to take care of their platform, of their order book, so that there's no manipulation there, any technique, and there are plenty of them. I found many insider dealers. We call insider traders insider dealers, because that's the official EU way of saying insider dealing. Yes, it's like poker
Dealers.
Yes, with orders.
We've got an interesting term here in Europe.
Yes.
Is it the same in the US or?
No, it's trading, insider trading.
Dealing. Insider
Yes.
dealing.
Yes.
So that's a funny thing. I think about drug dealing when I heard that it's insider dealing.
Well, everybody with his vice.
Hey, kid, would you like some tokens? I swear they have 2 million daily volume, right?
Yeah, maybe. I'm thinking about poker, to be honest, when I hear dealers. Because that's why we also call market makers under law like broker dealers. So you have types of authorizations as brokers and also dealers. And when we zoom in, into the dealer's definition, is basically what a poker dealer makes to the table. So that's how it drives revenue. profits. Yeah, so broker dealer. So you basically place on one or multiple markets, so one exchange or more exchanges, the order of your client, buy, sell, whatever, bid, asks, to keep the liquidity there for everybody to trade, to continue trade. And also you can, as a broker dealer, so market maker, you can also trade on your own account, so in your own profit. So that's the distinction. The others cannot necessarily do that. Only one of them.
Very interesting. So, all right, market tries to prevent market abuse. Right?
Yeah.
Tries to protect the consumer and more so the crypto buyer and the crypto long-term investor, right? Could you go a bit more into
Let me answer Godbit exactly.
Okay.
I remember that I didn't actually answer the question.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
So Godbit basically got caught, and they were selling the tokens that are receiving from their clients. So they were committing any type of, allegedly, market abuse strategies out there. You wash trades a lot, faking volumes to get listed on a tier 1 exchange and so on for a mere subscription worth of 15K per month, right?
Does that include the wash trades or
everything? Pump and dumps, painting the tape, member marking the close, a lot of such.
Allegedly,
schemes.
is this offer still available?
Was that?
Allegedly, is this offer still available?
I heard that.
But it's illegal. So
the outcome it's in the making to be prohibited totally. It's definitely de jure prohibited, but now de facto it's going to become like an unlawful behavior on the markets because that doesn't ensure the fair and orderly characteristics of any market. So it's against you. Like Godbit had many connections to probably all relevant crypto exchanges. So take it or leave it, but I have an assumption that they were also doing something much worse than wash trades and
like
front running. So basically, probably because that's what MiCA does.
What is front running?
Yeah, that's good. I have to let your audience know. Basically, I'm the client, you're the exchange. I submit an order selling 100,000 shares on your market. Yeah?
A market order?
Yeah, market order in any crypto.
So you sell at market price,
yes.
Not at a specific price.
At market price, for instance, or I put an order or a limit or whatever for X amount of euros. But the exchange says that will see that in advance, and they will basically do something to put it on hold, find a deal to pocket the difference. So basically, they see what you actually want to buy, and you don't get the first spot in the line, right? They get the order, they see it, they find a way to provide you with that liquidity, and they pocket the difference because they get the shares or the crypto assets here, the units, to sell them for a different price that is in their own advantage. Basically, they see and they make arrangements to profit out of your every order. And I don't know exactly, that's my assumption. Yes, allegedly, of course.
We might be doing that, okay. But this is like a pretty small, weak...
It's happening. It used to be like happening every single day in the good old days on traditional financial markets.
This is quite a weak belief to hold, but apparently not. Okay.
Yeah.
And we are doing this on all major exchanges because we are connected. We are a top 5 market maker.
Yes, exactly. And MiCA prohibits that too. It's also market abuse, and it's very severe because you basically steal from all of your clients. Yeah, you don't let them trade fairly with honesty. You're the first come, first served.
So it's another way in which MiCA protects the crypto buyer and long-term investor.
That's what an authorization does. And you need to have internal risk control internal risk control mechanisms in place to prohibit that. And you need to survey your markets for trades and orders, and to file what we call STORs, suspicious trade or order reports, to the regulator in your home member state, sometimes also to share with the host member state's regulator, and so on, because MiCA is a passported license, can be.
So now you need to get a license according to MiCA to operate an exchange.
Yeah.
Do you think this will hurt the smaller exchanges that might not be doing these sorts of things?
Absolutely.
Because this just levels out the playing field it levels out the small players because they can no longer afford to invest that much in compliance.
Yes.
But the big players, they have billions upon billions of dollars to spend in this sort of manner. And then they will have less competition because the competition is out-regulated.
Yep. There's a two-edged sword here, basically, this legal tool. Because the ones that are profitable and etc., they can afford these programs, the license, and so on. I mean, it's between 100 and 180K at least. So just to open the door to that possibility to operate lawfully from now on, after 31st of December.
What are the ongoing costs on top of that?
You need an AML team. You need the registration.
Anti-money laundering team, right?
Exactly, anti-money laundering. You need to perform KYC, KYB, and that doesn't need to deal with centralization. I do highlight that. That's not part of that misconception out there in the public. KYC is something standard. It's not centralization. That's data, your data. You do that with every other service provider, right? You go to a lawyer, you need to do your KYC. That's not centralization. Centralization deals with control and management. We can discuss about that a bit later. So the license is going to create a de facto obstacle, of course, to smaller exchanges. And I think that's good.
You think that's good?
Yes, I
Less
think
competition.
for some, indeed, and also more opportunity in the very beginning, including for retail, because there will be a mismatch in prices on the markets there. So arbitrage opportunities will rise, in my humble opinion, because we'll have less, and probably every liquidity will get concentrated on a couple of order books. And you'll get a disparity, especially in the first period when you basically have, let's say, so in the Netherlands, let's say there are 30 applications now. Roughly 1 in 2 will probably get regulated, so authorized. And everyone else cannot operate unless they have a DNB registrations.
From the central bank, right?
Exactly.
The Netherlands bank, I think.
Bank.
I hope I pronounced it correctly.
Exactly. So basically, that's an AML registration. It's not a license. Everybody was talking about a crypto license until now. That's not a license. That's a pure registration under the AMLD5, Anti-Money Laundering Directive 5. We have 6 now in the making. AML R2. We have also an authority for that at EU level, an institution. The headquarters were chosen. I forgot the place. Maybe in Germany or somewhere else. Correct me if I'm mistaken, but I really forgot
I don't know.
the headquarters.
So maybe if a viewer knows better.
Yeah, maybe they know. I can check. I'm going to check after the podcast because I really forgot where the location was chosen. Maybe Ireland, maybe Malta, Austria. I really forgot where that body will be. Yeah, so going back to the licensing procedure and the benefits and the disadvantages of it, players like Coinbase will basically take a front seat in the short term. The liquidity will get concentrated on these bigger exchanges. They have the means to stay compliant because they have an obligation for ongoing requirements under that license. And it's probably easier to get the license, to get authorized under MiCA then staying compliant with all of those requirements. Because you need to infuse a lot of resources, human capital, financial capital, accounting standards, and in all honesty, accounting standards are not there yet. Some are happy about that because there's still no tax, there's no cooperation between administrative bodies such as tax authorities EU-wide until 2027. But we also have a framework. I have a friend who worked on that. That's the CARF framework, crypto asset reporting framework for tax purposes at international level. And I saw something this week that I forgot the member state that wants to implement this CARF into national.
I think that Denmark wanted to tax unrealized crypto gains. I think
that's another subject. Yes, everybody does that. Yes, it's about how you report as a crypto asset service provider everything on your client's books to the relevant tax authorities where you operate, right?
Okay.
Yeah, Denmark will do that. Italy raised almost doubled their crypto asset taxes, and yeah, that's sad in my opinion because they are just equities in the end. Why do you need to do that?
You might be jealous. The tax stories might be jealous,
right? I don't know how people can be jealous on something they don't understand.
Can be very annoying, The tax authorities might just not be that much in agreement with somebody just being very careless, throwing 10,000 euros in a certain coin and becoming millionaires basically overnight.
Yes.
Makes sense now? I mean, that's how I interpret it. You might have a different view, but...
I'm not going to talk about taxes. I have a strong opinion about that.
Okay. What do you think the future holds in terms of regulations for the crypto space? What do you think is needed to adequately protect consumers? And do you think that MiCA does enough? All right, so let's start there. Does MiCA do enough currently for crypto buyers and for the market? Do you think that we do it adequately, that we overshoot it? What are your thoughts on this matter as a crypto lawyer?
They certainly scared people and the business people in crypto with MiCA, definitely. But it doesn't do enough. In all honesty, it doesn't do enough. It barely sets out the framework to operate under in the EU. And it's good we have some legal certainty, like, are you a CASP? Are you not a CASP? Are you an utility token? Are you an ART? Or you're on a stable coin? When do you become a significant to become a significant ART or e-money token to actually get directly regulated and otherwise monitored but supervised by EBA and ESMA directly, because you can be falling under that capacity, like status of being monitored and supervised by the European Banking Authority and the European Securities and Markets Authority.
All right. What do you think MiCA should do more? What do you think it should add?
Well, in terms of investor protection, or basically, there's this conception attached to the term investor. Well, you're too rich to need protection. So we don't need to protect you. You're at your own risk, right? It's the same with the 100K guarantee for money in your bank account. Like above 100K, you're too rich. You don't need our protection anymore. I don't think that holds true anymore. 100K is pretty much nothing with this skyrocketing inflation. It's certainly not easy peasy to
Depends on who you ask.
There, of course. It's still a relevant amount, but not that difficult for somebody highly skilled.
Still buys a house in Romania, as we both know. But
in many other countries,
it doesn't.
Even here, you can buy a parking spot.
Parking spot.
Yes.
Right. Well, if you have a parking spot,
if you bring another
you can't really
50K,
call yourself rich, right?
If you bring another 50K.
Depends also on the city,
Well, I live in Amsterdam, not somewhere else.
Your perception is skewed, but all right.
Yes.
Please continue. So, what do you think about the protections and what do you need to do more, right? And um, do you think that investors? In what manner do you think that investors should be protected?
Yeah.
And also, what do you think the new threshold should be for crypto? Or let's leave aside
Yes.
banking guarantees, but for crypto.
Well, everybody
do you
in
think there
crypto
should-
is an investor. They are not just mere depositors trying to keep their money safe in the end, right? You have savings accounts for that, and those are guaranteed by the national scheme of every member state. I wouldn't I wouldn't propose at all something like 100k or 20k or 50k or any amount in terms of a guarantee for any amount deposited with a crypto exchange. But investors need to know the liquidity and actual reserves at all times of every crypto exchange they open and hold an account with. Because you cannot trust. There are many crypto exchanges out there that they don't hold any Bitcoin on their balance sheet. They have no reserves in Bitcoin almost. Or they are limited to. There are large crypto exchanges favored by many meme coins or utility tokens in the very beginning that hold less than 40 Bitcoins. Would you trust such an exchange? They basically have...
I would trust it. I would trust it to fail.
Yes, because they only have worthless tokens in their custody, in their treasuries. So
Do you think
how are
that
you
they're
going to
doing
pay me?
things that FTX, for example, did?
Yes,
and
exactly.
trade, even though their customers, hold certain assets, they
Yes,
take the
exactly.
the assets of the customers and they do whatever.
Precisely. And you also have the proof of reserves, that thing on chain nowadays. That's ludicrous. For a matter of fact, I know how it works. That's duct taped as a solution. Many people say just, okay, we have chain link here. You can see that there. It's there. No, it's not really there. It is, of course. I'm not saying it's not. But it's an ad hoc agreement between two parties. Like,
You feel that
deposit
the
it
law
there
should
and
regulate
leave it
this?
there. Yes, definitely, the proof of reserves. And we need to report that and to audit that all the time with serious auditors, not somebody from Cayman Islands, like we know from the likes of Tether in the very beginning. Now they use a better provider,
But Tether, for a long period, guaranteed its reserves with auditors from the Cayman Islands, which is quite shady as a jurisdiction.
it doesn't have to hold true, that one. I mean, it's a country, it's not blacklisted, it's not shady, that we need to remove this kind of mental barriers nowadays. It's a country like every other one out there, so they have proper laws, standards. They don't look at how it is written on any sort of paper. They actually apply a substance over a form principle in the BVI and also in Cayman Islands nowadays. So I'm a big advocate of that jurisdiction. They do great stuff. And they are a free market in the Commonwealth.
But the auditors shouldn't come from there.
Sorry?
But the auditors shouldn't come from there.
Well, they can come from there for that national market, but not for the EU or the US or Brazil or so on, right? You operate and service Europeans, EU residents, and their dependents. You need to abide by the standards here, at least at EU law level. And if one regulator asks for more, AFM does that, for instance. They try to make everything safer. Also, ESMA asks for a couple of things in their RTSs, more than MiCA does, like a cybersecurity audit, for instance, like the VFA requirement in Malta used to be. MiCA doesn't have that in place, but ESMA advocates for that. The commission denied, and now they need to decide whether a cybersecurity audit from a regulated auditor on a list will be necessary for the application.
All right.
Yes,
Very
but
interesting. Do you have
but
any
we
other-
need we need for every geographical area and jurisdiction somebody that we can trust. And in Europe, we need somebody from the EU. Any country, it doesn't matter, but somebody from the EU
All right. Very interesting. Do you have any other suggestion?
for investor protection.
Yeah, in general for crypto.
I have a couple of them, but I don't know how applicable they will be in the very beginning. And we anyway have MiCA 2 down the road coming after 2027. So I think we'll see more reporting there. But that just makes everything more complicated for businesses, which is not fabulous. For people, just always be aware of your investments and protect your own back. Do your own research always about who you're entrusting your money with. It's the same like when you fall in love or you partner up. You just need to build a healthy and trustworthy relationship with that other party. Because that's a relationship with your crypto exchange, for instance, and your investments. And it's energy in the end. Money is energy.
All right. Very interesting. Now, moving on from discussing the law to discussing its effects upon crypto actors, I want to ask you, as somebody who deals with crypto actors on a daily, what are the biggest challenges that actors in the crypto field deal with
From what standpoint?
from the legislative standpoint by MiCA? What are we most pressed about?
Well, the market abuse for sure, because they drive a lot of profit from there, from market making and their arrangements at the moment. They need to disclose all of those outsourced activities. They need to disclose how they execute orders and trades on behalf of their clients. The custody policy, for instance, they need to make arrangements to hold the assets received from their clients, from you, basically. You send some money on one crypto exchange and they need to have an execution policy and they need to abide by it. Like, it's not okay, it's printed, listed there, nobody enforces it. So that's the role of the regulator. They will actively and monitor that on a quarterly basis, definitely, or every time there's an incident. So a store is, for instance, filed with them. They're going to need some information to drive a conclusion. Is that a case for a fine? Is it's justified, or we need to send it to the prosecutor because it's a crime? So that's how it's protected. Every market participant will want to actually abide by the law and the granted authorization. Otherwise, they just go to jail. And that's what I do. I keep people out of jail.
They regularly ask you for advice on how to meet these reporting requirements.
Yes. And it's not easy because most of these people have no experience with capital markets, with the way the traditional financial markets work like.
Are they programmers? Are they finance people?
Developers, mostly. Business people, but from different type of sectors of the market. And nowadays, more and more TradFi people. So that's a good sign. But most of those TradFi people have their ways of operations at the moment. I mean, they are not our age at all. And there's no sort of discrimination here. They are very smart. We need them. They need us. So on. We basically sync, and there's a very good synergy between differences in generations. We learn from operations, what works there, what works in crisis management, how to handle stakeholders. But the process to move forward is usually very, very slow in many instances. Especially, they have a tendency of adding more voices to the table. So I have clients like this sometimes, and I need to take a step back because it doesn't lead anywhere. So you need to limit the number of stakeholders in any given decision nowadays. Every type of company. We know we live in a democracy. It helps. But sometimes it's just the moment of action. Just take another step forward. I think everybody in that room has an intelligent and well-informed, based on hands-on experience. Things will collapse anyway at some point. Then you just adjust, and that's fine.
Well, that's kind of what we're trying to avoid here, with so much regulation, with so much thinking.
Do you remember our Credit Suisse last year?
What?
Credit Suisse last year? All of those banks that failed worldwide?
Yeah, I know that they were bought out by UBS, I think, right?
Yes, but Credit Suisse is Switzerland. They have a history of, I think, 3, 4, maybe even 500 years now. And it's a prime example of things can go down one day.
Yeah, but we don't want that. We want that to be as far away from us as possible. No, and I think that also
Every empire falls.
It was also quite an isolated case. Other banks, also the other bank purchases also in Switzerland. So we also had that. However, that's what clients usually want to avoid. Their ruin. Are these people usually tough to deal with?
They always look for creative solutions, and I'm good at that.
For loopholes.
Loopholes and creative solutions. Loopholes, we don't have many loopholes anymore. Every remote island offshore has some sort of vast regulation. There are some exemptions sometimes, or there are thresholds that can help you put the step in the door. And I suggest that to those that need that, but some who can actually afford moving forward with a full regime of authorization, what's the purpose of looking for shortcuts? You'll anyway do it, so it just hurts you now in the short term. Yes, it's a big invoice, but that's good marketing too. I mean, I think you'd rather pay 100K for full authorization that you can hold onto something than paying a marketer 100K and deliver you no result, right?
Seems like an obvious choice.
Yes. But some think otherwise. And now marketing is also regulated, so watch out, marketers.
Okay, that's something interesting. What other things do your clients usually ask from you? Do they ask you to just for explanations? Do they also ask you to fix things after they've broken something, after they've gone against something else? Do authorities also usually contact your clients? So crypto service providers and businesses that have crypto tokens, do they even get questioned by authorities? Do they think that it's a possibility? Do they think that the laws are still quite far away?
I have many yeses and nos. Yes, nos here for your questions. It really depends on the person. But yes, everybody is subject to the law to some extent. If it's not that, it's the other one and so on. So everybody needs to be careful with their behavior when one engages with capital markets and so on. So if you engage with crypto, any type of investment, you can get questioned, of course. And that's usually done in the shape of an information request if you're a client of such a CASP, right? Basically, you can be yourself, Ilian, you could be an insider trader, right? So you'll get basically reported, and then the authorities will ask you about that, or it's about taxes. It's usually one of
What if I shut up or don't know anything?
I think you know the answer to that. It's not
I'll go to
possible.
jail.
Potentially, if it's serious enough and if it's worth it. Yeah. But client usually ask me to take care to keep them out of jail first of all. So I'm very happy with them because they are all compliant. I don't take bad actors, bad faith people. If I know something, I don't want to talk to them. So I take people that actually want to embed legal ethics in this market and trust. We propagate trust. That's what we do. So I take care of their policies, authorizations, registrations, helping them getting more funding when necessary.
That's nice. That's really nice. What kind of solutions do you usually provide? What are your main client strategies when uh, a firm that has a crypto token says something like, "Hi, Sadri, we are looking for legal representation. What do you usually offer?"
What define representation? What do you mean by that?
Well, we just need some legal advice. We want to be in the clear, right? We have a token. We've already listed on some exchanges. We've made some sales. We've made some money. How do we proceed from here to make sure that we don't get in any trouble later?
That's advisory, not representation.
Okay,
Representation
yeah.
is in court.
Okay.
That's why I asked you. I don't do in court stuff.
Okay.
Maybe I'll do it, but not anymore. And I can do that in another country, but not here.
Not here in the Netherlands.
Not in the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, I don't do at all that one.
But you can do it in Romania.
Yes, I can do that. Yes.
So you just have to, decline the forum of the Netherlands and go to Romania.
Yes, applicable forum, right?
Yeah, according to Brussels. Yeah.
Yeah. You know your
That's
stuff.
what I'm learning now. So
Yes, right. No, and I actually have no intention of representing anybody in court because it's a messy process. I don't like it for myself, and if I end up with a client there, because I take very early stage clients, so I help them navigate the whole landscape. So from zero to success, and I don't know the other side of the coin until now. So everybody's just doing well. If I end up in court with a client, it means I haven't done something right. So my plan is to always create a bulletproof framework for everybody to operate under. I like peace.
what are the usual strategies that you use to make sure that the courts don't get involved?
But I do settlement and mediation, so that's for sure. And based on past performance, that went very well.
Nice. That's cool. What do you usually suggest to clients who want to be in the clear?
To stay in the clear.
Do they have to get a license? Do they have to
Yes.
take some registration? What are the step-by-step things that they need to undertake in order to be
It
fully
always
compliant?
depends on your level at the moment and objectives. So I always combine one of my pre-vetting questions would be basically this one about the personal objectives. So I always need to know, why do you do this? If you're making it purely for the money, I don't think we are a good fit for each other. So I take clients that are very unique as much as possible. So I don't take competitors of each other. So I stay with one market maker, one token issuer in that field, like let's say Depin, cloud computing, or whatever else, water management, something else, what they want to do, financing, lending and borrowing, visionary projects, so one of each. But I really focus on why do you care about this field of finance? Because you can make more money in something else. Much easier. Just look for an investor, you get an authorization, and then you move forward with that plan. People understand it. It's quite difficult to explain crypto and blockchain to layman nowadays, and especially after this last period, like the so-called bear market. It was a very tough one, cold-blooded, full of FUD news, and for all good reasons. They should have happened. blood in the streets. And I'm very happy it happened. Not for the victims, but to basically highlight the fact that we need law in place that's efficient and seeks proper, just, fair outcome for everybody. That's what MiCA does. That's its objective, aim at the moment. Let's see it, how it will implement this vision in practice from now on. How I basically advise clients is taking you from here. If you're a startup, let's look for a step-by-step solution from one milestone to another. I never want to create financial burdens on the balance sheet of my clients. So I look for models, how we can work together, how I can help you. My plan is to launch you, first of all. That's what drives me crazy about this field. Like, I really, like, in the good way. I'm passionate about this. I love this. I have a smile every single day. It doesn't matter how tired I get from discussions, from clients, from work, from reading, from research, business events worldwide. I think I've been to more than 35 events this year, official ones. So I hate airplanes. And that says it all, basically. There's a lot of travel involved with this, and talks with many new faces all over the world, new cultures. I need to adapt all the time. That takes a lot of effort for any of us. So my plan is to launch your protocol, your idea. So we use every loophole possible if necessary. We use exemptions, ways to not fall under the regulatory framework of any country. We choose markets carefully. We cherry pick jurisdictions, so we do some forum shopping here and there. And then we go for exemption. We go for formal exemption. We file for exemptions to the relevant national competent authorities. And in parallel, we prepare for full authorization and or registrations where necessary. We create in-house rules, policies. We align with all stakeholders so that we don't get surprised. It's very important to have everybody aligned on the same page so that you avoid that situation where somebody's intentions or plans change, right? I mean, we all have a personal life in the end, and that could impact the business, and we don't want that. We want things clear and set in stone from the very beginning, considering all such situations. So my goal is to protect the person, the founder, always. That's clear to me. That's my end goal here. Vision and founder. Because without a founder, you don't have a business. You can't even sell something in the early stages without a good founder and a fully functional team. So we focus on culture, a culture of full compliance, for legal standards to be out there, for protection for users, and for what the users of that solution will actually enjoy. So many people say easy, fast, whatever, right? Nowadays, in terms of their solutions marketing. I don't think that's the key to success nowadays anymore. Easy and fast. First of all, they need to understand it. To what end do you say it's easy and fast? What is easy and fast, right? So I need to understand, because if you're talking about something like, I don't know what type of technology at the moment, like a new mineral found there or made in CERN. What's that? I don't know. I heard about very technical elements nowadays or minerals in the real world assets tokenization world. And like, okay, I read a lot, but I have never heard about that. Can you tell me more? And they don't know how to explain it. Or I get asked by clients like, he's my lawyer, he can explain you, he's making everything for us. And I'm like, yes, right. I can explain you what this man told me. Not the full picture in his own mind, right? I'm not reading minds. I'm pretty good at guessing the intentions, but I don't read full visions up front. I have my own. You're responsible for that. So you need to be a good founder, and I'll take care of you. So authorization is the ultimate goal, and then to stay compliant, to service your clients, as you said in the very beginning, because you get an authorization based on a promise. And you prove that with supporting documentation, policies and plans and whatever, right? With reserves, with some facts there, some deposits, minimum subscribed capital as it's required by the law. Yeah, a team, a physical office where you can be visited like you actually exist, so on.
Very cool. And lastly, my last topic of discussion is what would you recommend to consumers and investors if they have been hurt by a crypto undertaking?
Report them. You have a legal right to do that. It's easy.
Do you think that they should call upon special representation? Can they even do that?
They can do it by themselves sometimes. They can get advice, of course, legal advice.
Are the authorities enough for the consumers?
No, definitely not. No authority in the world is well enough staffed, right? So we are in a staff shortage worldwide. We can't handle every complaint. But that's why we also have a complaints policy requirement in the MiCA application for CASPs. So you go on the website, you see the complaints policy, you try to reach out to the CASP itself, and then you try to resolve that between yourselves, right? That's the first step. And then you escalate. You try to talk to their compliance, legal team, and so on, because customer support will probably, customer satisfaction experience departments will answer to you. Then you try to talk to compliance and legal, and after that, if you're offered a solution, fine. You don't start blackmailing CASPs. They are not answering to that. I mean, I myself don't let my clients get intimidated by that. And then, after you reach that stage where compliance and legal don't have any practical solution for you, you can ask for a decision maker meeting, right? To see whether somebody who actually cares about that business has a way to solve your issue, like a founder,
And you do all
CEO.
of this through email.
CEO, sorry?
And you would do all of this through email.
Yes, and meetings, online meetings, it's enough, or in office meetings, you schedule them and you meet.
It depends on the CASP as well.
Yes, of course. And then in the end, you can just report the behavior if you talk about market abuse
Where do you report it?
to the regulator.
ESMA.
ESMA is a bit too high, so you do it in your home member state, first of all. But if you're basically if you hold an account with a CASP from a different member state in the EU, so we talk about only the EU, you go to the home member state regulator where the CASP is licensed. So if you're, from instance, from Estonia and you use a Spanish regulated CASP, crypto exchange, you go to CMVM.
In Spain?
Yes, in Spain. And you report that to them.
How can you see where they're licensed?
And there's a public register, and that might also we'll have to aggregate this EU-wide. So they have an obligation to do that. But also with the website, on the website of every regulator. So you go to your national regulator, you just type in basically financial regulator, whatever the country is there, France, the Netherlands, Germany, Austria, etc., Switzerland, and so on. You'll get the name. Probably people don't know all of these abbreviations like I remember them by heart. You get the abbreviation, you look for that, you go to the crypto asset register, and there you'll have a list of all regulated entities and also blacklisted ones. And you just take the contact of the regulator, you write them, describing your issue, what you seek.
And then you hope and pray.
Not really hope and pray. They are going to do something with that. So they are going to ask the crypto exchange what's
if,
happening there.
You write to them, but you're still probably not satisfied, or they are probably not working fast enough.
Yeah.
Can you?
Yes, you can sue them if you want in the end. But I think
So that's the nuclear option. That's the final option.
Yes. But I think you need to exhaust all of these means. Basically, reach out to the institution itself, then the regulator, see what happened, and of course, maybe the regulator finds the institution, but it doesn't really help you, right? You lost some money probably.
I mean, the regulator should also have the power to mandate the crypto asset service provider to give you something if you've been genuinely hurt.
I haven't seen that. Or it's not really satisfactory. Mm-hmm. If you really want to do that, you can sue them under tort law and get some damages, rewards. So you need your own lawyer in that regard. You do a mediation, arbitration, and lawsuit. That's my own approach. So every legal contract that I make for clients goes through this hierarchy, because otherwise the standard one will apply, like the court of your country there, the district court as a first instance. So I always expressly make it with mediation first, then arbitration. So you need to create a bridge of options. And for instance, for businesses, it's a very good way to go through arbitration. And we have NCC in the Netherlands, an arbitration court for commercial purposes, and it's in English. So
that's
I think I can
option.
do that, for instance.
Okay.
It's much easier, and it's costly for the parties, and it's in the favor of the business. Yeah, some people will basically not be happy with what I said, but that's fine. I represent businesses mostly.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay.
So I safeguard the interests of those entities.
Mm-hmm.
I like an easy life. I like an easy life with impact.
What about the burden of proof in these cases? Because proving market abuse or proving front running and proving that you've actually lost money because of those things is quite hard, because you don't have all of the knowledge and all of the means of adducing proof to a court in regard to that. Do we have some European standards regarding the burden of proof in market abuse cases for crypto purposes, especially?
The burden of proof
in such tort cases, as you've mentioned.
In tort cases. Okay, tort cases. So the individual basically will sue the institution, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's basically the defendant who needs to prove it. So the market like basically you're accused of doing something. It's your job to basically say that you haven't done that and you have implemented all the required standards in order to protect the market and all of your clients.
So the client accuses, and if they can show something, a little bit of an argument.
Yeah, basically they also, so how it goes, the client needs to substantiate that claim, first of all, in order to be valid. And then the CASP needs to defend itself. So the burden of proof, because they are regulated, lies on the cusp
Mhm.
side. But of course, then there are a couple of ways to challenge the claim of the user. It depends on the situation, really. Honestly, I mean, I can talk about 30 minutes about that. That's why I'm a bit slow in talking about it, because I see multiple scenarios. So we need to talk in concrete. That's how I would do it.
But mostly...
So we talk about hardship, for instance. We could talk about negligence on the other side.
negligence, you placed a trade at the wrong time. You should have made sure to place a trade at the right time to not be front run, because that's when market makers...
How do you
front
prove
run.
that?
I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, what could be the negligence of the trader in a case of front running? Because you've said that Godbit
Yes.
recently did this, so like proving this as a
That was
as a trade, that would be quite
that
hard.
was continuous. That was continuous in nature.
Yeah.
That's no negligence, not even recklessness.
No, but I'm saying contributory negligence on the part of the trader.
That was a serious infringement. Like they did it with direct intent, with everything. Like they were advertising their services as such. Give us money to get your business where you want it to be. It doesn't matter. So basically, he was following a Machiavelli principle, like no lex specialis. The end. Excuse me.
That's interesting. Very interesting to see how this case will play out, right?
Yeah. Bad for Godbit. I get clients now.
Because we are scared that the same might happen to them.
Yes.
Is there any other things that you'd like to talk about? We are nearing the end of the podcast.
Centralization theory, maybe. We have never talked about that yet.
Right. What would you like to tell me about decentralization theory? Because I'm not that familiar with it.
So MiCA is mostly for centralized entities. And we only have a recital there in MiCA about the full decentralization test. And I specialize in decentralization as a theory within DLTs. Many people ask, okay, what's going to happen with decentralized finance applications, DEXs, right? Decentralized exchanges like Uniswap and all of those aggregators and so on. Are they actually covered by MiCA? That's the first question. Like everybody just wants to build something that's DeFi or DEX because MiCA doesn't cover that. Well, you'd be surprised. It does. But I don't say that, of course, from the very beginning. I had a talk in Ethereum Amsterdam this year on the scene here and there in Amsterdam, not Maastricht. But it would be good to talk about that here too. Everybody tries to circumvent MiCA with some DeFi feature. It's not about features, it's substance over form. So you really need to be decentralized. But then my question is always like, to what end? Why do you make this? Are you sort of a monk or something like that? Is this for charity, for technology? Are you that passionate and you have that much time? Well, we're going to get some commission. Now we talk. So you're going to get a commission. Yeah, etc. Maybe not directly, maybe as a kickback or a rebate commission. That's also unlawful and falls under MiCA. You're making that in the course of business for economic purposes, for financial profits. Right? In the markets, here, you're present. You administer and control. You manage that. Shares. Let's talk about shares. Active management and control. Where does that take place? Well, here in this country or that country, in Europe, etc., or outside Europe. Okay, we don't want Europe because we want to stay out of MiCA. Okay, are you going to service Europeans? Yes, of course. We have people in Germany or Switzerland. So, well, we fall under MiCA. Why? They get all of these people who are like from all over the world, like, no, but I'm offshore. We set up something in Cayman Islands. Good job. Do you have an authorization under the VASP Act of Cayman Islands 2022? No. Well, who said that you're abiding by the law then? My corporate service provider from Cayman Islands. When? In 2021. Okay. Now you have your answer. In 2021, not 2024 or 2025.
It's evolving so fast that you constantly need to monitor these things.
Yes, exactly. So
Yeah.
they talk about Seychelles. Seychelles has VASP license regimes now. They have full national law framework in force. Every country has a law about crypto assets. There's no such place. I looked at some point. I was asked to look for an island where there's no VASP law. I found out about many small islands in the Indian Ocean and in the Atlantic. I had no clue they actually exist. I mean, they are populations very remote from the shore. I had no clue, honestly. Some of them are just like rocks. I'm like,
And they still have crypto laws.
yes. That's very funny, right?
I mean, how far is this going to reach? Like, is every village going to have a crypto law?
They are part of a country, right?
I mean, yeah, but if they have a special autonomy regime, they are going to,
yeah.
have their own laws.
Yes. Heavy.
Where do you draw the line? I mean, if there's an island with 300 people, do they need a crypto law?
Apparently, yes.
I think there might be one person in the whole village who trades crypto, for who
There you go.
the legislator needs to make some laws. We can't let this guy have all the fun.
Exactly. Right. But then he's going to get clients from probably Europe, right? Or USA or India or
Yeah, you also
UAE,
have
Dubai, and so on.
regulatory competition in order to attract these
Yes.
sorts of clients that
Financial regulations work in or from that jurisdiction. So it doesn't matter you're in British Virgin Islands or in Japan or in Indonesia and you service only that area or the other one. But as soon as you have clients from the EU, for instance, MiCA applies. And same goes for that other countries, country laws. Like they also apply as soon as you have clients from there, unless the reverse solicitation regime applies. But you cannot abuse that, and you cannot use it to circumvent MiCA's application, right? So I know many people will do it. That's not fine. And they are going to get caught. And then the burden of proof is definitely on you as an institution. You need to prove to the regulator that was conducted, you received funds from clients from Europe when you are an offshore entity, for instance, under the reverse solicitation provision clause in MiCA. But you can't getting millions and millions and millions and transaction after transaction after transaction under that regime. And you can't do it for too long, like definitely not longer than 2 quarters. It's too long. Like, what are you doing there? Right? Yeah, so many of these protocols actually are very centralized. DEXs are centralized. But we have some indications from Denmark, for instance, or even from the FIT 21 US bill about that. There are some thresholds that you can meet to actually stay decentralized, even if you're centralized, right? So we talk about maintenance only, how active is the management, who actually holds decision-making power, how voting procedures are taken. That's also important for DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. A new type of governance on blockchain, for instance. Like every neighborhood can form a DAO and become their own bank, right, for the community. And also 21% it would be a relevant number to mention here, like 20% shares of the undertaking would be a good indication of decentralization, so less than that number. And maintenance only. Tweaks and tricks in the code, like intervening when it's necessary, absolutely necessary, and you know what necessity means under law.
In under law for our listeners.
It's technically really necessary. You don't just for the layman.
Extremely
Necessary. Exactly.
extremely necessary.
It's not arbitrary at
Yeah.
any in any consideration, right? So
Well,
you talk
it's
about
necessary.
subsidiarity
I was going to be offended if I didn't do it.
yeah. It needs to be proportional to, and subsidiarity needs to be.
It also
watched
sometimes needs to be the last resort. So.
Last result is that's ultima ratio principle needs to be followed in terms of necessity. Like we really need to do it because we are going to lose if we don't do it, and everybody will lose if we don't do it for you, right? So a bug is fine. A bug can be managed by a core team of a protocol. That's not centralized in nature then. But if they can move funds and so on, custody is also very important in terms of centralization. Who accesses that? How can that treasury wallet address be accessed? Yeah, who decides what to do with the funds and so on? But I think that becomes too charitable in nature in the end. Like it becomes a non-profit organization. Maybe it's fine. There are countries that
Is
actually...
Bitcoin a charitable organization?
We don't have a founder. We have Satoshi
And it made a lot
Nakamoto.
of people rich.
Hmm?
And it made a lot of people rich with no effort.
Yes, and that's really decentralized. Even if it's really centralized in the end nowadays. But everything gets centralized. Everything that's centralized gets decentralized and decentralized, centralized and so on. That's the cycle. It's fine. It's about education in the end. The few well-educated will understand whatever holds real value, right? So you want something of good quality. Yeah. Bitcoin is a commodity, first of all. It's an asset, and it's going to be most likely take it or leave it. My 2 pennies will go on this strong thought. Will most likely become reserve for most fiat currencies and the CBDC currencies out there. So euros, dollars, digital dollars will get yens, Chinese and so on. Everything will get Russian rubles. We'll get BRICS, for instance, BRICS coin. Will get backed to some extent by Bitcoin. That's why big institutions get into this. The likes of JP Morgan, BlackRock is doing that too. And BlackRock and Vanguard actually have problems nowadays.
Have what?
Have problems with their one of the regulators in the US. A pretty serious one. So they wonder whether with that 5% in pretty much every meaningful corporation in the world they hold in, whether they are passive investors or they are more of activists, so driving agendas, because then they have too much control over the whole world. So one US agency doesn't like that, and that tells me that there's a civil war in the US at the moment. Some managing directors, partners, whatever, chairmans, commissioners, they have some conflict with each other. But my question is whether it's only internal, it's a party agenda, it's for their own interest or conflict of interest, or it's actually a foreign country who's managing one of the opposition leaders. So
very interesting.
Yes, I think so.
But now we are getting to a part where we will wrap up and conclude. So from our discussions, my main takeaways are that the markets in crypto assets regulations tries to protect investors and customers, whatever you wish to buy them. It protects investors by stricter reporting requirements. It helps out the weaker parties obtain some form of protection by the regulators, even though they might still have a pretty hard time actually obtaining any compensation for the wrongdoings of crypto as service providers and for other crypto undertakings. Now you need to be licensed in order to be a crypto as a service provider and to issue certain kinds of tokens. And you need to actually be more transparent as a crypto undertaking.
I start with the end of that. You do need to be more transparent because that's everything about. You're a CASP. You have a fiduciary obligation towards your clients, towards the market, towards the regulators to behave and to ensure fairly and orderly market conditions for trading on your platform. You hold client assets. You need to segregate those from your own accounts. You need to safeguard the interests of your clients aligned with other regulations and laws in each country. So we cannot forget about consumer protection. We need to make sure that the marketing is not misleading at all. It's clear, precise, right? And focusing on the fiduciary obligation, you need to also take into account prudential requirements that are a novelty for most CASPs. And it's not the easiest part to deal with, especially for the smaller exchanges. But the bigger ones should be able to do it very easily. So it's mostly a question of willingness nowadays. Full goodwill, you want to actually be a leader in this market compared to your competitors, or you just want to end this saga of being a crypto as a service provider and start a new business in another emerging technology that's not that well regulated anymore. But crypto assets and their market participants are very well regulated, especially in the European Union. And that's what we do here. We embed trust in crypto, blockchain, and every other distributed ledger technology for the greater good of everybody. So with that, I shall thank you for this invite. It was a pleasure to be here to discuss one of my core passions, professionally speaking, but also personally, marketing crypto asset regulations. My whole research is around this regulation and everything that's associated, affiliated to it. And hope that everybody will benefit out of this upcoming market cycle late this year, early next year. And stay safe always. Be aware of who you engage with.
Nice. Well, it has been a great discussion for me as well. And for any of our viewers that want to contact Sadri or perhaps work with him, I will leave his law firm's website in the description.
Yep.
Thank you, Sadri, once again for coming, and looking forward to possibly discussing some future things in perhaps another episode.
Oh yeah, definitely. We still need to talk about the travel rule of Europe in the transfer of funds regulation.
KYC, perhaps,
KYC, KYB.
anti-money laundering.
Yeah, to dismantle a couple of beliefs there about centralization. What actually means decentralized protocol.
Perhaps have an episode about CBDCs.
Yes, and talk about CBDCs and what
Central
we are about
banking digital currencies for anybody who's not familiar with the term. But anyway, till then, we are glad that you got to this point and looking forward to seeing you in our next episodes again. Goodbye.